everybody. We are going to work on page 3 of the blue folders, and page 3 is all about slope, interpreting slope, where to find it, and how to get it from graphs and tables and equations and all of that. So let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start up here at the top with this slope bookmark, as I called it in the past. So essentially, slope is just the steepness of a line. Slope is just how steep a line actually is. So if you remember, it's a rate of change So if we're looking at a word problem, these are the words we're looking for. We're looking for per and every and each. Okay? We're looking for words that mean, hey, I have a rate going on. Okay? So that's what we're looking for if they give us a word problem and say, what's the slope? Now, how do we find slope? Remember, it's just rise over run. So what does that mean? Well, that means find the change in y and put it on top of the change in x. Okay? There's a formula chart. On your formula chart, if you look, they even give it to you so you don't have to remember it. It's that y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Okay? Now, I don't usually use this formula. I usually use rise over run, but if you're one that likes to use it, I want to make sure I have it on there. And then lastly, they use m in the equations to represent slope. Okay? So these are all words and things that represent slope, that mean slope. Alright, so let's go ahead and do this flip chart right here, determining slope from. Okay? And let's just open it up. We're going to start with slope from graph. So how do we find slope if we have a graph? Okay, we've done a little bit of this already on page 2, but essentially what you first do is you pick two pretty points. And by that I mean you pick 2 points that are corners of the graph. Okay? After you pick 2 pretty points, you're going to draw the right triangle. Okay, so it's going to look like this. Okay, so let's look at this graph here and let's go ahead and pick 2 pretty points. So we're going to pick this one right here maybe, and this one right here. Those are 2 pretty points. Then we're going to go ahead and draw the slope triangle, which is like that. So now we have our slope triangle. Then we're going to find the rise. So the rise is 2. I'm going to go ahead and color that pink. Find the rise. Color it pink. So the rise is 2. So we're going to color it pink. Okay? Now, we're going to then find the run. Okay? So if you look on here, the run is 1, 2, 3. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and color that yellow. So the run is going to be my yellow color. And then we're going to write a fraction. So the fraction is rise over run. So remember, my rise was pink and my run was yellow. So when I write my fraction, it's going to be 2 over 3. Okay? Now, the last thing we need to do is we cannot forget about slope dude, okay? We cannot forget about slope dude. Don't forget slope dude. So, the actual last thing that we're going to write on here is, what would slope dude say? WWSDS. What would slope dude say? Okay? Don't forget slope dude. So, what would slope dude say on this slope? He would say negative. So the slope is negative 2/3. Okay? Alright, so on the graph, it's 6 steps. Pick 2 pretty points, draw the triangle, find the rise, find the run, write your fraction, and don't forget about slope, dude. Okay, let's talk about tables. Let's turn it to the next one. And here are the steps for tables. Step 1, you're going to draw the arrows. Okay, so I'm going to draw my arrows on the outside. Step 2, you're going to find the change in y. Triangle y means change in y. Make sure you use positive or negative. So from 5 to 9, it's plus 4. And from 1 to, so the change in y is plus 4. Let's mark that pink. And it's the change in y, so let me write that. Change in y. And then we're going to, step 3, we're going to find the change in x. So this is the change in x, and it's plus 3. Notice how I wrote the positive, even though it doesn't really matter when it's positive. We don't have to write positive. I just don't want to forget to write it. And then step 4, you're just going to put change in y over change in x, which is 4 over 3. I don't know what's going on with my pen here. Should show up a little bit better. Okay, so change in y is pink, and the change in x was yellow. So that's your answer. The slope is, so m equals positive 4 over 3. And if it's negative, then you write your negative 4 over 3. Okay? Alright, let's talk about finding slope from equation. Okay? In order to be able to find the slope in your equation, it must say y equals. So write the equation to say y equals. Okay, so let's look at this equation here. What are we going to have to do first? We're going to first have to subtract the 2x from both sides. We're left with negative 3y equals 4 minus 2x. And then we're going to have to divide by that negative 3. So remember, we have to share the love. And that means everything is going to be divided by negative 3. So this is y equals negative 4 over 3. And since both the 3 is negative and the 2 is negative, we say plus 2/3 x. Okay? Remember the song? Add or subtract the x term and divide by the coefficient of y. Okay? Don't forget the song. Alright, after we write it to say y equals, remember our slope is the number before x. So is the coefficient of x. Okay, so it's y equals mx plus b, and so the slope is that m part, so it's the positive 2/3. So for this problem, m equals positive 2/3. Okay? Alright, last one. How do I find the slope between 2 points? So you can do that a number of ways. The way that I like to do it is to just put them into a table. It's just easier for me. Okay? So I'm going to use that as my notes. So we're going to make a table. And then we're going to follow the table instructions. Okay, so it's change in y over change in x. Alright. In this case, remember this is function notation, which we talked about on the other page. Remember what's inside the parentheses is x, and what's outside on the other side is y. So let's go ahead and make a table. It's negative 2, negative 6, and negative 4, positive 4. Okay? So remember, this side is change in y. We're going to color that pink. Just trying to keep track of everything here. So when I draw my arrows, Negative 6 to positive 4 is going to be positive 10. Okay, be careful when you're doing these problems. Think about money. I owe $6 and now I have $4. So it's positive 10 in the y change. Okay? Now let's look here. From negative 2 to negative 4, I went down 2. Notice how I wrote negative in front of that 2 there. Okay? And this is my change in x. Okay, and so then you just write your equation, change in y over change in x equals positive 10 over negative 2. And when I simplify that, that's negative 5. Okay, so m equals negative 5 on this last problem. Okay? Alright, so that's that. Moving on to slope from a graph or a table, we're going to interpret them. Okay? So, interpreting slope from a graph or a table. So when we interpret slope, all I'm asking you to do is remember that it's change in y over change in x. So remember, slope is a rate of change. So you're going to put change in y over change in x, which really just means you're going to put the words of y on top of the fraction and the words of x on the bottom of the fraction along with your numbers. Okay, you're just going to put them together, and that's going to help you to write that rate. Okay, it's going to be really easy if you do it that way. So on the first example, they're asking us to find the slope from this graph. So to find the slope from the graph, we're going to find two pretty points. So there's one here and here. We're going to draw the slope triangle. We're going to label the slope triangle. Do not forget, this looks like it's supposed to be 1, but if you notice over here, it's counting up and down by 5s. So be careful when you're taking the STAR test that they don't mess you up with the 5s counting on this side. 5 high and 1 across. So it's change in y over change in x. So you say $5 over, and then you say 1 hour. So this is $5 per hour. This line right here, you can just say per, or you can say for every. Okay? Alright, the next one is a table. So we're finding slope from a table. So we're going to go ahead and draw our arrows. This one is plus 6. This one is plus 1. So change in y over change in x is positive 6 over 1. Next to the 6, let's put what it goes with. It's money, so dollars. And next to the 1, let's put what goes with it. It's hours. So this rate is $6 per hour. So interpreting from a graph and a table is actually really, really easy, as long as you write those words down. Okay? Alright, we've got another table here. We go up 7 on this side. We go up 1 on this side. Change in y over change in x. So this is $7. And this is 1 mile. So my rate is going to be $7 per mile. Okay. Todd's account. The only two pretty points that I can find on Todd's account are the beginning point and the end point. So when I draw my slope triangle, it's going to be really long. It's 10 long, and then this looks like it's 1 high, but it's actually 100 high. So don't let that trip you up. So this is change in y over change in x. The y is $100. Seems like all of these were dollars. And then the x was years, so 10 years. Okay? We never write slope in form like this because it can still be simplified. So 100 divided by 10 is 10. So this ends up being $10 per year. Okay? I have to do that 100 divided by 10 thing. Okay? Alright, last two. Okay, so on this one, I see a pretty point here and another pretty point here. The closer together your pretty points are, the better your slope is going to be. So this goes up 1, 2, 3, 4, and this goes up or over 1, 2. So this is 4 over 10. And it looks like it's 2, but it's actually counting across by 10. So change in y over change in x is 4 gallons this time. And x is 10 minutes. 10 minutes, because we're talking about the x-axis. And so now 4 over 10 is, they're both even, so I can divide them both by 2. So this is 2 gallons. And you can say per 5 minutes, or you can say every 5 minutes. That's typically how we say it. 2 gallons every 5 minutes. Okay. Alright, last one. What do we do when we see decimals in our tables if we're trying to find slope? So this one goes up 0.8, and this one goes up 0.5. And so we do the exact same thing we've been doing. Change in y over change in x. We still say 0.8. We still say 0.5. We say this is 8 inches. And this is 5 pounds. But now we use our calculator to come up with the fraction. So we're going to say 0.8 divided by 0.5. And then we're going to say math, enter, enter. And that's going to get us our fraction 8 over 5. You could also just do your fraction with the alpha y equals enter, and it'll give you the decimal because it's decimal, and then math, enter, enter. Either way, whatever works best for you, okay? So this says it's 8 over 5. So this is 8 inches every 5 pounds. Okay. All right. The last little foldable on this paper is this y equals mx plus b foldable, and really all we're going to do here is we're going to talk about what each of these parts mean and where they show up, okay? So we've got, in the y section, it's just the y value. So if I'm talking about x, y, I'm talking about, sorry, I can't see it. I'm talking about this one right here, okay? Remember, we can have x, y on a table. Y is going to be over here on this side. And if we have x, y on a table, y, and it's going horizontal, y is going to always be on the bottom. Don't forget about that, okay? And then remember, if we have a graph, that the y-axis is the up and down, the vertical graph, part of the graph, okay? All right, slope. That's what M stands for. It's the slope. And you often might hear me say how the line moves. M stands for the how the line moves. Okay, it's kind of convenient in that sense. Okay. X. X stands for the x value. So if I have an ordered pair, oh, I need to put it in function form too, so, or function notation. So x is going to be right here, and over here, if we had f of x equals y, there's where y shows up. Add that to over here as well, sorry. Alright, so if we have a table, we've got x in the first part. We have a horizontal table. X is always going to be on top. And then if we have a graph, the x-axis is the horizontal line. Okay? Alright, last up on this equation is b. What does b stand for? It stands for the y-intercept. It stands for where the line begins. Okay? So, let's talk about a table and a graph for this one real quick. The y-intercept on a table is going to be when x equals 0. So B is going to be right here in the y spot. Okay? And then if we're talking about a graph, the y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. Okay? Alright, so that's page 3. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good day.